everyone, it's Julie and welcome to my October recap. Let's just dive right in, shall we? And talk about the decks that I worked with in the month of October. So I worked with a few. Let's start off with the Skeleton Tarot. This is a Peggy bag, and it's perfect because it has the skeletons making a little heart symbol. This is a deck by Rocketship. You have seen this on my channel several times. It is an RWS clone pretty much, and I thought that this would be appropriate for the month of Halloween, given that the theme is cute skeletons. And I used this deck for my morning draws. And as usual, no problems working with this deck. It was a good time. So this deck was for my morning draws, and then in the evenings, I would switch between two decks. One being the Halloween Tarot, and this bag is from Betsy over at The Bee and the Snake. And this is my first time working with this deck. So this is by Karen, I have my notes here, Karen Lee and Kipling West. And I thought this would be fun for October as well. I, of course, have seen this deck all over the place. It's really popular. This is focusing. And it's, again, very much in the vein of RWS. I had fun working with this. I used this in spreads or just random pulls in the evening, and it's a good time. I had no problems with this deck. I will say my favorite thing about this deck is trying to find the cat in each card, because the cat is the reoccurring character, and just to see the cat's reaction in every card, that by far is my favorite thing about this deck. And I like this deck. I think it's a cute deck. I will say I wasn't, I don't know. I wasn't super excited to be picking up the deck though on a daily basis. Like, it was just more of like, oh, okay, this is my deck that I'm working with in October, the Halloween Tarot. Okay, so let's pick this up. But you know how with a deck that you're really excited to work with, it's that giddy feeling of having that chance. And I love this card because I don't know if you can see, but like, you can't see the cat anywhere in the image, but if you look right here in the house, the cat's in the house. I love that. Anyway, I digress. So, you know how you are super giddy about a deck because you just love it so much and you just can't wait to get your hands on it, to do another spread, another reading. This deck wasn't like that for me. It wasn't like pulling teeth, but it was just like, oh, okay. So I think I will keep it, and I got this for the purpose of just using it around Halloween time anyway. And so I think I will keep it for the next Halloween just to see how I feel. You know, maybe the excitement was taken away because I was working with so many other decks. I'm not sure, but anyway. But it's cute, totally cute, fun. I liked it. Love is too strong of a word, but I'm gonna give it another shot next year. Now, the deck that I was constantly giddy over is one that I bought at the end of September, and that is the Raven Prophecy Tarot. And I'm not going to say too much about this deck because I am still planning on doing a walkthrough, which was a request, and I am happy to do so because I fucking love this deck. So yeah, this was a deck where I just wanted to work with it all the time, and I modified it. But so good. So good. And this is a deck that I pretty much bought because I am into the Raven Cycle series by Maggie Stiefvater, and this is a deck also created by Maggie Stiefvater based on that series. And I just didn't anticipate falling so in love with this deck as I ended up doing, and I will probably continue working with this in the month of October because I'm just not ready to stop working with it yet. And I'm not done with the Raven Cycle series either. Not that you need that to work with this deck, but again, I will touch on all of this in my walkthrough. I bought 2 decks in October that I mention in my Shopping for Tarot VR. One is the Samhain Vintage Lenormand by Tarot by 7. And this deck was a deliberate purchase in that I was looking for, come on. See, that's the thing about like this case is nice. You know, I like this hardcover case, but the cards stick to it. Anyway, I was deliberate in my purchase of this deck because I was looking for a kind of Halloween themed autumnal Lenormand. And I had been looking for a while and finally stumbled across this deck. And I love the aged vintage look. And I worked with it some in October. I did not work with it as much as I had expected that I would. I mean, I love all of the images. What I did discover is that when I got the deck, the images looked much more blurry to me with like the naked eye, you know, in my hands, in front of my face. It just looked way blurrier. And so at first I thought, oh, is this perhaps a printing error? And I looked back on the pictures on the Etsy store site, and then I also hunted down some other YouTube videos talking about this deck, and it turns out that that's just how it is. It's that kind of blurry, aged look. But funny enough, I feel like the images show up way crisper in videos and in photography, like pictures, than they do when you're just like looking at them straight on. So I do think the blurriness, while I did get used to it, I think it affected how much I did work with the deck. All in all, I still really like the deck, and I plan on keeping it for now and working with it next year, maybe a little bit in November, see how I feel. But it's a good deck, and it's got this nice linen finish to it. It's a good quality deck. It's just a tad blurry for me. And also, I think it's something I could get used to. The other deck that I bought along with the Samhain Vintage Lenormand is this deck right here. It doesn't come in a box. It just came shrink wrapped, and it's an animal deck. Yes, it is. I know. This is the Fauna Inspiration mini deck. And this is from Rebecca. Can't pronounce her last name. I will have it somewhere. From Avec la Vie, I believe. I don't know French. I apologize. So this is a mini deck, and I did round the corners. But yeah, this was a bit of an impulse buy, I will say. You have the images in the front, and then you have the animal name and symbology and description of what that animal represents on the back. And I just really fell in love with these soft watercolor images. And I have been meaning to work with animal energy for some time now, but I feel like I was particularly called to work with it, given that the fall is here. So I just decided to get it and just be very carefree about how I use this deck. But I just think the images are beautiful. I do plan on doing a walkthrough of this one as well, so I'm not going to say too much more on this deck. Another tarot deck that I received is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, and this was an anniversary gift from the lovely husband, Matthew, and I was so excited to get it. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't even think he really paid attention to like my wish list, and I mean, unless I explicitly, hit him over the head with like, these are the decks I want. But he took the initiative and actually went out and got this deck, which just, love him so much. I didn't work with this deck in October. What I did was I edged it in a combination of blue and brown. And I spent the month just looking at the images and reading the guidebook. I think I love Ellen guidebooks, and I know there's been some talk about the cardstock being shit, and maybe they shouldn't have spent so much on the guidebook and have put some money towards the cardstock. But I love this guidebook because I love the glossy feel. I love that they give you a blown up picture of each card in color, and you can spot so many details that you might not see the first, second, or even third time if you're just looking at the card itself. So I really loved that and just loved reading the story behind each card. So that's what I did in October. So this will be a working deck for November. And then finally, I also worked with the Witchlings deck by Paulina Cassidy. And I believe that was the only Oracle deck that I worked with. Yes. And it was such a sweet deck. It was very affirming and gentle, and I loved all of the images of the witches. And they had, if you looked in the little guidebook, they each had a name, which I wish they would have put on the card because I feel like that would have added a little more personality, given that the deck focuses on witches and each witch is departing this message to you. So I think it would have been nice to have the names of each witch included on the card itself. But in any case, I don't have it to show you because I did in fact sell it because, okay, even though I did like it and I enjoyed the time that I had with it, I knew that once I was done working with it, I would not pick this deck up again. I just, I don't even know that I can articulate why, other than like, I liked it, it's cute, nice messages, but maybe it was like the Halloween tarot, just like I liked it. Love is too strong a word. I have other Oracle decks that do the same thing. So I just knew that it was one that I would be negligent in giving attention to. So now it's onto a loving home, another loving home. That was it for decks. Books, movies, TV. I mean, I didn't really do much of any of that. In terms of physical book reading, so I did start this book. Sorcery of Thorns. This was a birthday gift. I had never heard of this book until then, and my friend just thought it would be something that I would enjoy. We have similar taste in books, even though she hasn't read this either. But and so I'd started it, but then I caught a thread on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in. It's like a book, book Facebook group. And they were talking about this book and how crap it was. Like, they were talking about how it started off great and then it was just crap. And so even though I shouldn't be affected by other people's opinions and I should, give it a chance and judge for myself, which I still plan on doing. I still plan on finishing this book. I mean, unless it is that horrible halfway through, then I won't waste my time. But in any case, it did kind of kill the enthusiasm to keep going. So I just stopped because I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to, but I will continue reading it. And I think also because I'm so immersed in listening to the Raven Cycle series, that just took up more of my time than anything. I would rather have listened to those books than to read this book that everyone was shitting on Facebook. So I am on the final book of the Raven Cycle series by Maggie Stiefvater, and I am obsessed with this series. That's all I can say. That's all I will say. Poor Sarah over at Sunset Bow. I've been just IMing her, bugging her about these books because I know that she's a fan and I have no one else to talk to about these books. And so I'm just like randomly IMing her and blabbing on about my love for these books and these characters. And Maggie Stiefvater has a new book out based on a couple of the characters in the Raven Cycle series. And so I have to finish the series. I have to finish the follow-up like novella or story, and then I can dive into that book. So I'm really excited about that. Movies and TV, nada. I didn't do any of that. I had considered going to see Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I wasn't sure if it was good or not. If any of you have seen that movie, let me know if it's worth going to see. I caught the first Maleficent on TV just randomly, and I don't even think I caught it from the very beginning. I caught it kind of midway through, and I liked what I saw, but I wasn't sure if that was because I had zero expectations or if it was actually a decent movie and I just love anything Disney. So let me know if you've seen the second Maleficent. Is it worth going to see? But yeah, I think that the month of October was very much more about my focusing on my own creative projects. So I was dealing with my manuscript. I don't think I mentioned this in my last recap, but I did hear back from a publishing company that I submitted my manuscript to. I heard back from them in September, and they had declined my manuscript as is, but said that I have the option to resubmit it to them if I make revisions based off of their feedback. And so that was amazing to have that opportunity. And the kinds of revisions that I know that they're looking for, I mean, that's completely redoing my novel in a way that I don't know that I want to do. I'm not sure. Like, I honestly don't know. I have to think about it some more. It would take considerable work. And I understand publishing companies, they know what sells. So they have certain requirements in mind and certain tropes they want to see, certain elements they want to see. I get that. But so what I decided to do instead is to submit to another agent. So I did that this past weekend. Yes. So that's technically November, but whatever. I did end up submitting to another agent. And so we'll see. I might submit to yet another one after if the manuscript is declined. and then maybe revisit redoing the manuscript for this other publishing company. There is no guarantee if I revise the manuscript the way they want it, there's no guarantee that they'll accept it even then. So it's just an opportunity to resubmit, which is, don't get me wrong, I'm so thrilled about it. I really am. And I don't know where I am with what I want to do with this novel. I have to think about it some more. We'll see. And then I was sewing, trying to make some new tarot bags on my own. I did put up a short video on that, and that was a fun little project to do, and I think it's one that I will continue to practice once I get a much better sewing machine. Another project that I finished in October is creating my own oracle deck, and this is just for my use, but it was such a fun project, one that I had been thinking about for some months. It started off as wanting to do a Lenormand deck of my own, but then it kind of morphed into more like an oracle deck, and I just kept trying to dismiss the idea, because I am no artist. I don't have any drawing capabilities. I don't know how to create imagery. But then I don't know what came over me last month. I just really wanted to make my own deck, and so I decided to use vector images. Legally, I legally obtained either vector images that have licenses or are in public domain, and I did my thing, and I'm really satisfied with the overall product of it. I am curious to see how it will actually work for me, but it was a good time, and I can't wait to get my own deck in my hands. That was my October. I would love to hear about your month, so you know the drill. Drop a comment below. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.